Do you want to learn how to make a quick and easy one-pot chicken and rice recipe that's so addictive that you want to have it every night? Then keep watching and I'll show you just how to do it. So I'm going to start off by gathering all of my ingredients. So I've got some chicken thighs. I've got 4 bone-in thighs, and you can use any parts of the chicken that you like. But most people will use thighs, and I like them too because they have a better flavor. So for the seasonings, I've got 2 teaspoons of salt, 1 teaspoon of ground black pepper, 2 teaspoons of garlic powder, 2 teaspoons of onion powder, and to that I'm going to add 1 teaspoon of cayenne pepper. That's going to give it some heat. And then I've got 1 teaspoon of smoked paprika, which is going to help give it a little bit of color and give it just a little bit of smoky flavor. And I'm going to mix that together and sprinkle it right on the top of the chicken. Make sure that you're seasoning both sides of the chicken and that you're seasoning it evenly and that you're seasoning liberally, because you don't want the chicken to have spots where it doesn't taste like it's got any seasoning at all, and you don't want to have spots where it tastes over seasoned. Just make sure that you're seasoning it evenly and liberally and get all of those crevices. And once you are done, put it in the refrigerator for at least 1 hour or longer if you can. So some people will skip the step of letting the meat rest and put it in the refrigerator, but what'll happen is when you start to fry that chicken with the skin on it, it's going to burn the seasoning. And when you put it in the refrigerator, it gives it a chance to at least absorb some of the seasonings that are water soluble. So the salt is going to draw out some of that moisture, and some of those seasonings will penetrate the meat to a degree. It won't penetrate it a lot, but it will penetrate it enough to where you won't have the issue of the seasoning burning in the pan. Now for me, how long I let my meat marinate and dry rub really depends on the type of meat that I have. For thighs, I like to let them marinate for 2 to 3 hours before I use them. Now I'm going to get started with cutting my veggies. Now I've got 1 red bell pepper and an onion. I'm going to show you a trick with this red bell pepper to let you cut it easily without getting all the seeds. Now you see just what I did there. I just cut along those ridges that you see and pulled them back, and it made it a whole lot easier to get all that out without getting any of those seeds. I'm going to give the bell pepper a rough chop, and you can cut this however you want to. You can slice it, you can dice it, and you can use a red bell pepper, green bell pepper, orange one, whichever you want to. And I'm going to take half of an onion, and I'm going to do the exact same thing. And then I'm going to set them aside while I move on to the next step. Now I'm ready to sear the chicken. So I'm going to pour in a little bit of oil into this pan. And I'm not going to use a lot. I'm using about a 1/4 cup. I don't want to use a lot of oil because the chicken will produce its own oil when it's cooked on the skin side. And I'll show you that in just a minute. But I'm also not going for a fry either. I'm not trying to fry these. I'm just searing them, and that's all that I'm doing. I'm not even cooking them all the way. So you'll see what happens in the next steps. But I'm just giving this a sear, and I'm starting off on cold heat. And I'm going to then turn it on to medium low. And the reason that I'm starting on a low heat is because I just want to render out the fat first before I start to crisp the skin. I'm going to need that fat from the chicken when I'm going to be putting in my veggies. I'm going to start off by cooking the chicken over medium low heat for about 3 minutes, and then I'm going to kick the heat up to medium high and cook the chicken for about 3 to 4 more minutes. You saw me using the splatter guard, and I use a splatter guard every time that I'm frying or searing any meat, because I don't want all of that oil getting everywhere. I don't want it all over my walls. I don't want it all over my countertop. I want to minimize the amount that I'm getting. And the one I'm using, it is a silicone one, and I like it better than the ones with the mesh screens because I feel like this one lasts longer, and I can put it into the dishwasher, and it's just a lot easier to use. It maintains a lot better than the other ones. So once my chicken is done, I take it out and put it on a plate, and I'm going to set it aside. And I said done, but it's not really done, but it is done at this point. Now you're seeing just how easy this is to make. This dish is not hard, and it really is made all in one pot. So the next thing I'm going to do is get my veggies and put them into this pot and saute them for about 5 minutes until they soften up some. Now I don't want to use another pot for this because those brown bits that I'm moving around in that pan are going to give this dish a lot more flavor than it would have had otherwise. That's why I feel like it's really good, a whole lot better to make this in a stainless steel pan than anything else. So I'm adding in, for more flavor, a teaspoon of thyme and 3/4 teaspoon of salt. And I'm going to mix that in as well and make sure just to scrape some of those little brown bits at the bottom. But those are going to get soaked up and loosened when I add in my liquid later. So I'm also adding in 1 cup of rice, and I'm going to just give this a quick little fry, and it's going to help to get rid of some of those starches. Now the type of rice that I'm using is basmati rice. Now you can use regular long grain rice, and you can use arborio. You can use any type of rice that you like. You can use brown rice too. Any of those will work. But for me, my preference is basmati rice. And I'm using 2 cups of chicken stock. You can use water if you don't have it, but chicken stock will give it a little extra flavor that the water won't give it. I've got the chicken stock added. It's going to help me to release some of those brown bits at the bottom. So I'm going to move my spoon around and help to loosen some of those brown bits and incorporate them into the chicken stock, which will then be all incorporated with the rice. So all of those flavors will marry together and it's going to be amazing. Now, with this dish, I feel like what I was saying earlier, the best way of making this is not a non-stick pan, but it's in a stainless steel skillet like this one. Because when I'm using this, it's really helping to make sure that the chicken gets seared really well, and also those brown bits that you see at the bottom, you really don't see that when you have a non-stick pan. So the flavor is just going to be a little different. So if you're using a non-stick pan, the flavor is going to be a bit different than it otherwise would be. So I've added my chicken back in, and I'm going to cover it and let it simmer on medium-low heat for about 20 minutes. And here's the big reveal. Once the chicken is done and the rice has absorbed all of the liquid. Now I told you this was going to be quick and easy to make and all in one pot. It's a really simple dish, and it's so good that I'm telling you, I made 2 servings of this. Right after I made this one, I made another one because that's how good it is. This is really something that I feel like I could eat every single day. Now, if you didn't believe me when I told you this was a quick and easy dish to make, I'm going to break it down to you just to drive it home. 4 chicken thighs, some rice, a couple of veggies, some chicken stock, some seasoning, and that's it. That's all. And then you got this amazing dish that you will want to eat every single day. And make sure that you have a dessert with it. Click on this link to learn how to make the peach cobbler rum pound cake. It is amazing, and I know you're going to feel the exact same way.